East LA gangs. Can a fragile truce survive? March 29th, 1995, Los Angeles. When members from 13 Latino street gangs stood together in front of a local restaurant last November for an awards ceremony, it was a moment of recognition many had never experienced. Each received a plaque inscribed with the words, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God." For 14 months, gang members had put aside their deadly conflicts, and in East Los Angeles' historic Maravilla neighborhood, that was something worth celebrating. Despite its name, Maravilla, meaning wonder or marvel in Spanish, this community has long been home to some of the most deeply rooted and formidable street gangs in the country. Over the past 15 years alone, violent clashes between warring factions in this 3-square-mile area have taken the lives of at least 16 gang members and several innocent bystanders. But history seemed doomed to repeat itself. Just 2 weeks after the ceremony, a member of the Arizona Maravilla gang lost his life in a shooting allegedly carried out by someone from El Hoyo Maravilla. A week later, Arizona Maravilla veteran Hector Pacheco, respected at 36 as a veterano, was tragically killed, what police believe was a failed retaliation attempt. In gang culture, taking the life of a veterano is seen as an act of war. "It's completely different out there now," said Pacheco's brother, Andy Federico, a 40-year-old Arizona Maravilla veterano. "Everyone's impatient, hyperactive. They want war." As the fragile peace begins to crack, residents and community leaders in this working-class neighborhood, lined with single-family homes and Spanish-named storefronts, hold on to hope that the truce can be saved. But not everyone believes the peace was real to begin with. Law enforcement and some community workers argue that the gangs never truly renounced violence, but instead redirected their focus toward a common enemy, the notorious Mexican Mafia, also known as La M. With 13 active gangs and between 500 to 900 members, Maravilla is a reflection of the larger gang dynamics throughout Los Angeles. Police estimate the city is home to more than 1,000 gangs and 150,000 gang members, with East LA alone witnessing 44 gang-related deaths last year. The forces threatening to unravel Maravilla's peace are the same ones dividing other parts of Los Angeles. The legacy of Maravilla gangs. Maravilla is one of the oldest Chicano communities in Los Angeles, with its street gangs tracing back to the late 1920s and early 1930s. "Things have always been this way," said Raul Rodarte, a 70-year-old lifelong resident and owner of Maravilla Meat Market. Back in the day, guys would take bats and chains and have big rumbles like in West Side Story. Today, the weapons have changed, but the rivalries remain deeply rooted. Some historians believe these gangs originally formed as a response to racial tensions in Los Angeles, evolving into a form of neighborhood protection. The respect for gang culture remains strong, says Chanter Joseph Guzman, who has worked in Maravilla for 14 years. When gang members in the 1940s were jailed for refusing to snitch during a murder investigation, they became heroes in the community, Guzman explained. Doing time is highly respected in gang culture. Many Maravilla gang members still dress in khaki pants, Pendleton-style shirts, and polished black shoes, a nod to the 1930s-era Pachuco style. Their gang names, often taken from local streets, carry the Maravilla name as a badge of honor, with even outside gangs adopting it to pay tribute to the mother of all gangs. This generational cycle of gang life is deeply embedded, says Ruben Lopez, a parole agent with the California Youth Authority. It's unbelievable how entrenched it is. The truce and its challenges. While the 14-month truce did not eliminate crime or graffiti, it brought a sense of peace to the community. There was a huge difference during that year. No killings, said Raul Rodarte. That may not sound like much, but in this neighborhood, that was a big deal. However, some argue that the truce was never about peace. It was about power. Law enforcement believes the Mexican Mafia, formed in the 1950s by hardened criminals, including some from Maravilla, has been manipulating local gangs for years. Roughly 2 years ago, La M issued a strict no drive-by rule, allowing only walk-up shootings, part of a broader strategy to assert dominance while reducing collateral damage. Officers claim the Maravilla gang's so-called truce was actually a power move, a way to push back against the Mexican Mafia's growing influence. The truce is self-serving. It's not self-serving. It's not for the good of the community, said Sangre Guzman. The numbers tell a chilling story. Gang-related homicides in the area jumped from 17 to 44 last year, according to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Even while refraining from attacking each other, Maravilla gangs were still linked to violent clashes with outside rivals. Supervisor Gloria Molina, who represents East LA, remains skeptical. I don't think this truce was ever legitimate. A community caught in the crossfire. Maravilla gang members strongly deny that La M had anything to do with their peace pact, insisting the agreement had been in the works for years. The historic day came in August 1993, when hundreds of gang members gathered at Belvedere Park and pledged unity. From that moment, different Maravilla factions held regular meetings to reinforce their commitment. We had 50 guys from Mariana and 50 from Ford Maravilla, recalled Ezekiel Ordaz, a former gang member who grew up in the Maravilla projects. They stood up, shook hands, and said, "We can't keep holding grudges." But as tensions mount and violence resurfaces, many wonder if the truce has already collapsed. There are too many rivalries, too many personal vendettas, said Detective Tony Morena, a gang investigator with 14 years of experience. Everyone has their own agenda. And Maravilla isn't alone in its struggle. After the 1992 Rodney King riots, several African-American gangs formed a peace agreement in South Central Los Angeles, but today that truce is barely holding together. Can the truce be saved? Community leaders argue that the authorities have done little to support the fragile peace. These kids need programs and resources to give them a sense of self-worth, said Joey Chavez, a former gang member who now works with the New Jerusalem Church. However, funding remains scarce. We will never have the money for the intervention we truly need, admitted Supervisor Molina. Despite the mounting tension, Maravilla hasn't given up hope. Following Hector Pacheco's tragic death, Reverend Richard Maras distributed flyers urging gang members to stand down and renew their commitment to peace. His message was echoed by Andy Federico, who wrote an open letter pleading with his fellow gang members to resist revenge. And every Thursday morning, former gang members gather at New Jerusalem Church, their tattoos marking their past lives as they join hands and pray for peace to hold once more. The 1996 Maravilla, Arizona gang conflict, a night of retaliation. Background. The Maravilla Project Boys, MPB, the Rascals Maravilla, and the High Times Stoners Maravilla, HTSMV, were closely allied gangs operating out of the Maravilla housing projects near Belvedere Park in East Los Angeles. Collectively known as the Maravilla gangs, they shared a strong presence in the area. One of their long-standing rivals was the Arizona Maravilla, AMV, gang. For years, Belvedere Park was considered neutral territory between the two factions. However, in April 1996, that changed when Arizona gang members began marking the park with their graffiti, staking a claim over the area. The incident at Belvedere Park on the evening of April 30th, 1996, at approximately 7 p.m., two Maravilla Project Boys gang members, Ruben Garcia and Luis Olmos, were playing handball at Belvedere Park when they were confronted by a group of at least 15 Arizona gang members. The Arizona members accused them of crossing out their graffiti, a direct sign of disrespect. Although Ruben and Olmos denied it, they were attacked and severely beaten before managing to escape to the safety of the Maravilla projects. Seeking refuge in the home of Debbie Arellano, they recounted the assault to a group of Maravilla gang members, including Jose Sandoval, Alexander Dukes, Hector Guillen, Ralph Guillen, and Ezekiel Ordaz. Also present were Arellano and Iris Serrano. Outraged by the attack, Sandoval urged the group to retaliate. Arming themselves with knives from Arellano's kitchen, Ruben, Olmos, and Hector prepared for confrontation. Ruben later testified that he returned to the park with the intent to harm or even kill Arizona gang members. The deadly encounter. Upon arriving back at Belvedere Park, the group spotted two Arizona gang members, Manuel Chavez and Manuel Garcia. The Maravilla members immediately launched an attack. Ruben and Dukes began assaulting Garcia, while Olmos targeted Chavez. Witnesses recounted that Olmos stabbed Chavez multiple times, while Hector stood nearby wielding a knife. As Chavez collapsed to his knees, attempting to shield himself, one of the attackers stepped forward and fired a fatal shot to his head at close range. Forensic evidence later confirmed that Chavez sustained 4 stab wounds, 3 of them fatal, and a single gunshot wound under his right eye. However, the gunshot was determined to be non-fatal, with the stab wounds ultimately causing his death. Aftermath and investigation. Following the attack, the group fled back to the Maravilla projects, where they gathered in the parking lot. Olmos and Hector handed over their blood-stained knives and Olmos's shirt to Ruben, who wrapped them together and handed them off to Marcelo Rodriguez for disposal. Meanwhile, the firearms used in the attack were entrusted to Sandoval to be hidden. Ezequiel Ordaz, a reluctant witness, testified at trial that he was present at Belvedere Park when the attack took place. Although he initially denied seeing anyone fire a gun, his testimony was contradicted by prior statements he had given to law enforcement. Similarly, Manuel Garcia, who survived the attack, recalled that he and Chavez were aware of the earlier altercation and had planned to leave the park, but they were ambushed before they could escape. Another key witness, Iris Serrano, denied knowing the individuals involved. However, her previous signed statement contradicted her testimony, as she had previously told police that she saw 2 of the attackers return to Arellano's apartment covered in blood, where they proceeded to wash up in the kitchen sink. Gang expert Anthony Rivera testified about the ongoing internal rivalry between the Maravilla gangs, confirming that tensions were at an all-time high during the events of April 1996, conviction and sentencing. On May 4, 2000, after reviewing the evidence and witness testimonies, a jury found the defendant guilty of first-degree murder, premeditated attempted murder, and assault with a deadly weapon. The sentencing included 25 years to life, with an additional 10 years for a firearm enhancement. A consecutive life term with the possibility of parole was also imposed, along with 2 additional years for prior offenses. This case serves as a stark reminder of how gang rivalries and the cycle of retaliation can lead to tragic consequences, altering lives forever.